What's going on, guys? I'm Corey.
I'm Shane.
And welcome to the debut edition of the Slasher Center podcast.
Today, we're going to be ranking the Child's Play series as the debut of the podcast. And Corey will give you guys a little introduction about what this podcast will mainly be about.
So basically, it's going to be we're going to be reviewing, analyzing, discussing all types of horror films. And we're going to be doing ranking videos, anything horror related, basically. But we're mainly going to review movies.
Yeah, we decided to start with the Child's Play series for the upcoming film on June 9th, the remake. It looks different, obviously, because Chucky is a robot in this upcoming movie. But it shouldn't be too bad, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's going to have an AI aspect, which is different, but I will be giving it a shot. As far as the trailer goes, it hasn't intrigued me all that much, but some interest is there, and I'm definitely going to be checking it out. So I can't say that I'm not looking forward to it. I'm definitely curious about it.
Yeah, as well. But we'll get into our list, and I'll let Corey start off with his number 7.
Okay, number 7, I got Seed of Chucky, which is arguably the worst in the series.
I as well have Seed of Chucky as number 7. So.
We could talk about it a little bit. There's excessive comedy. It's way too over the top. And I think Bride's comedy was utilized much more effectively and appropriately.
Yes, I agree. I really like Glenn. I like the introduction of Glenn in this movie. But the thing is, with the Child's Play movie, you need to see a lot of Chucky. And, Chucky he's not really scary in this movie, And the scenery, the way they came back to life after Bride of Chucky,
right,
doesn't seem like, really that interesting, the way they came back.
Right. What did you think about the Hollywood aspect of it?
I think that they made Jennifer Tilly too much, try to become like a Hollywood actress. I just didn't. I thought the Hollywood thing was just a distraction.
I really did not like how they incorporated Jennifer Tilly as herself, like she was playing herself. I thought the idea was very strange and it wasn't executed well at all. And I couldn't really buy into the fact that there were supposed to be two different people. It really took me out of the movie.
Yeah. Also, the Glenn and Glenda thing, the male and female aspect of that, it just didn't seem right. You look at the doll. Or look at the person, I guess you could say.
It's good for like an all-out comedy film, but it seemed like there was just way too much comedy. It should have been horror comedy, kind of like how Bride of Chucky was. But this one, I felt like they really focused on the comedy a little too much.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people's rankings, they would put this last just because of the comedy. It's supposed to be a horror movie, not really a comedy movie. You could have comedy, but...
I do agree. Like, Glenn or Glenda's humor was decent at times, but it would have been much better if they made the character more serious and deranged, like Chucky. That way you could have like 3 killers running around. It would be much more entertaining. And also his design was terrible. It was god-awful.
I couldn't agree more.
But it makes sense for the character because his personality's so odd,
So yeah, Seed of Chucky is both of our number 7 on our rankings. We'll go to number 6. For me, it was Child's Play 3. And like Seed of Chucky, I really didn't see Chucky as a scary character in this movie. I didn't like the scenery. Obviously Andy is a lot older in this movie than he was in the first 2 Child's Plays. But I just feel like the scenery just didn't seem right. And, it just didn't feel like a Child's Play movie because in the other 2, the second one you were in a foster home, the first one you were in Andy's home. Like, it didn't seem like a Child's Play movie to me.
Fair enough. For my number 6, I have Cult of Chucky, and I felt that this movie was very disappointing. I'm actually one of the few people that liked Curse, and I was expecting a lot more from this. It did have a very slow pace to the movie, but it worked because it built up a lot of suspense. And I actually dug the design to set it in a psych ward. I think that was a really good choice. The bland kind of set helped develop like a certain atmosphere in the movie, which was very well done. The only thing is, the main disappointment of this movie is that Alex Vincent and Jennifer Tilly should have gotten way more screen time than they were received. The scenes we got from them were like really, really good, but when they were off screen, it felt kind of underwhelming because I didn't like any of the psych ward characters other than Nika.
All right.
Like I didn't like Multiple Malcolm or all those other people.
My question for you is, did you like, the numerous Chuckies and their personalities.
I did like how they did that because since they were going in the route that they did, I felt like it was necessary to make all the Chucky dolls have different personalities, because if they stuck with one personality, it just wouldn't make sense. So I actually like how they did that, but I'd rather them, go into a different direction.
Right.
Also, one more thing I have to mention is that I didn't like the script all that much. I thought it was lazily written. Because, Chucky now suddenly has the ability to transfer his soul into multiple dolls. And they even mentioned in the film, this is actually a quote from the film, that he found a new spell on voodoo-for-dummies.com. It just goes to show the lack of creativity. I think they should have given a more detailed and thought-out idea rather than a slapstick humor joke. The movie just lacked suspense, compared to Curse.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, speaking of Curse of Chucky, that is my number 5 on my list. I liked this movie. It wasn't, I felt like it wasn't, it was a good scenery in the house. It's dark. It felt more like a Child's Play movie than, the other 2 movies that I said. But Chucky looked very scary in this movie.
Yeah, he did.
When he removed all the...
It's like excess skin from the doll.
Yeah, I guess. When he moved all that off, like, you just saw how much of a badass he was in the movie.
This movie essentially saved the franchise. At first, it kind of feels like a remake. It has a remake vibe to it. But originally, that's what Don Mancini wanted to do. He wanted to remake the Child's Play movie, but I think Universal or whomever was involved with the project at the time, they wanted him to do a sequel. So
I also felt it was very different. The main character Nika, she's in a wheelchair. You really don't see many movies where your main character's a cripple,
and it's gonna be harder for her to maintain everything because she's in a wheelchair and there's a killer doll running around the house. She's not gonna be able to see him. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. And one more other thing that I really liked about the ending was Andy, when Chucky popped out of the box and Andy just put a shotgun right to his head.
Mm-hmm. The end credit sequence.
It was very good. I think it was very good, but it's not my favorite, just because the introduction to it.
Right, but at first I wasn't expecting much from this film because Seed was so bad that this movie actually impressed me, and the tone was much more dark. It heavily reminded me of the first film. And they succeeded in making Chucky creepy again, which is great. And I thought the story was really interesting, and I love how they explained Charles Lee Ray's motivation from the first film in greater detail. And Fiona Dorff's character, Nika, they had great on-screen chemistry because, in real life, they're father and daughter. And I think it just worked great. Mm-hmm. And also, one last thing I'd like to mention about the movie is that the beginning is a little slow, but... Again, they did that to build up the suspense, which I really dug. And the whole thing with the priest and the poisoned food was great. That was one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
Yeah, very creative way of killing somebody.
And the climax is just plain awesome. And the ending was handled very well. And it made me pumped to see the next movie.
Yeah. Now coming in at number, I believe, 4 for me is Cult of Chucky. And unlike Corey, I really like this movie. The numerous personalities with Chucky and the multiple dolls was very interesting to me. I know some of them weren't as scary as
It's different.
ones,
I will
but
get
it was
that.
very different. The scenery in the mental institution was very, in my opinion, very interesting. And again, Nika was the main character, and it was hard for her to be in that situation when Chucky's coming after her. I think the kills were creative in this movie. I really like the one where the girl is strapped to the chair and all the glass just falls onto her and kills her. I thought that was one of the best scenes in the Child's Play series. The one thing I didn't like, though, is like you said before when you were talking about Cult of Chucky, is there's not enough Andy in this movie. And, Andy, especially if this is the last movie of the series, obviously the remakes coming up, but this is the last movie in the series. Right. And I believe that once you start with Andy, you have to end with Andy. And, we just need to see him a lot more on screen.
Yeah, hopefully he'll get a lot more screen time in a future sequel or the new TV series that Don Mancini's coming out with.
Yeah. That's
just my hope. Okay, so at number 4, I have Bride of Chucky, and this is one of the most praised Chucky films in the franchise, arguably. I adore it. I think it's great. It's adventurous, it's a blockbuster, and it's a classic for me. It's very well shot. I will say that this movie had some really unforgiving deaths, even if they were accompanied by a couple jokes. Actually, you know what? The soundtrack was really good, and I thought the origin story of how Chucky and Tiffany were connected was rather interesting. And the soundtrack was amazing with Rob Zombie's score. And there was a lot of satisfying deaths, like the cop in the movie who was such an asshole, and his death was so satisfying to see when Chucky blew up the van. That's like one of my favorites. Also, that pinhead scene.
The pinhead scene is one of the best kills in the series.
Right, and the montage of Tiffany stitching Chucky back up together in the beginning, that was excellent. And very fitting because the Living Dead girl, tracked by Rob Zombie, is playing in the background, which actually kind of has to do with that same scenario. So, or the lyrics do at least. Yep. And I really like the characters of Jade and Jesse and they were really fun to watch on screen. This is the only minor complaint. I just wish Andy was kind of acknowledged in any way, shape, or form in the movie. But that's my only complaint. I'm actually glad they went into a new direction. I just wish he was mentioned at least once.
Yeah. Coming in the top 3, and number 3 for me is Child's Play 2. Now, I really like the scenery in this movie. I think the foster home idea was a great idea just because after the original Child's Play, everybody looked at Andy as this psychotic kid that thought his doll was killing everybody around him. The one thing I didn't like, though, is there wasn't a lot of gore in this movie. I want to see a lot of, amazing kills. I want to see a lot of cold-blooded kills. That's what's going to really hook me into the movie. But, it's a great sequel. The ending is great of how Chucky dies in the factory. And, Kyle really matured in this film from the beginning when she was like a punk. And then, at the end, saving Andy from Chucky.
Okay, so at number 3, I got Child's Play 3. And in my opinion, this movie is underappreciated and incredibly underrated. I love the opening credits sequence with Chucky getting melted down and then reforged into plastic. I thought that was really cool. I really dug the military academy scenery, which was a big change from Child's Play 1 and 2. People don't like change all that much, but I do. I'm one of those few people, except with the case of Cult of Chucky. I didn't like that change, but I thought the actress who played Kristen De Silva was really good, as well as Lieutenant Colonel Shelton, who was a real dick in the movie, and his on-screen presence really pissed me off. And I thought they were both great casting choices. They kept the tension arising in a lot of scenes, And also the casting choice for Andy, I thought it was perfect because he looks just like him. He has a baby face. He's got the brown eyes. I thought it was a really good choice.
My question for you is: do you like the Tyler incidents in this movie? Where Chucky's pretty much playing around with him, just so he could, put it or transfer his soul into his body.
I thought it was a good idea. I just didn't like the casting choice for Tyler. He was not a very good young actor at all.
I agree.
I think Chucky's character was utilized the best in this movie. He was completely unhinged in this movie, like the dumpster kill and the CEO of the Good Guy Doll Factory, who was killed in the very beginning. I love that scene. And also the Colonel when he had a heart attack.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah. This is the thing, though. I mean, another question for you is, do you really think that, him not going after Andy as much in this movie affected it? Because Andy's the main character, right? And he's Chucky's
he was going to go
target.
after him at first, but then he changed his mind because he saw someone that was much younger, and he was able to, he had the chance to transfer his soul to someone that's much younger, and he wanted that opportunity to do so. So I think it was the right choice.
Really?
Also, Chucky, he sets up a handful of very tense scenes by tampering with paintball rifles, adding real bullets into them, which was awesome. Really that was really sadistic, which I really liked. Really and the fair House of Horror climax at the end, that was a perfect way to end the series, with him going into the fan, but they didn't end it there, obviously. And again, my only complaint about the film is the child actor who portrayed Tyler. I didn't think he was very good. And there's actually one scene where Chucky bashes him over the head with something. I think it was a knife or something, and then, or maybe the handle of the knife, and then
he was like, "Are you okay?"
Yeah, and he
just
goes
like,
yeah,
oh, yeah,
and then he gets off like it's nothing. That was ridiculous, but
I will agree with you on this, and I know I just, ranted on how much Child's Play 3, in my opinion, wasn't that great of a movie. But I think the ending was one of the most unique ways of, killing off Chucky, because obviously Chucky dies at the end of every film.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. Coming in at number 2 for me is Bride of Chucky. And I'll be completely honest, the adventure that they had, Chucky and Tiffany with Jess and Jade was very creative, in my opinion. Going from Chicago, I think it was, to New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody in the state, or everybody in the country, pretty much just looking for them, specifically because
it was like all over the news.
Yeah, they were thinking they committed murder. And the pinhead scene with the father was very interesting, and there's a lot of gore in this movie. It's just, again, I think that having unique kills, that's why I like the Halloween franchise so much, because there's so much gore in it.
Mm-hmm.
That really hooked me in, and that's why I put Bride of Chucky at number 2.
Okay, fair enough. At number 2, I got Child's Play 2. And this movie has got to be one of the best Child's Play sequels. I think it is. And, not everyone returns from the previous movie, like Detective Mike Norris and Karen Barkley. She undergoes psychiatric evaluation, so we don't see her in the movie because they probably didn't want her to come back for the film. Because they wanted to introduce new characters, like Andy's foster sister, Kyle, and Andy's strict teacher, who essentially drops a get Stitch's idea on him,
Yeah, Chucky beats the shit out of her with a
ruler. And I'm glad they showed Chucky right from the start, and we don't get to see him, and we actually get to see him do his killing tactics, because at this point, we've already seen Child's Play 1. We know Chucky's alive. We don't have to wait for him to talk, and we don't need another 45-minute wait to see if Andy is nuts,
Mm-hmm.
Also, the doll animatronic looked fantastic. It's almost as good as the first, second at best. I love the attention to detail. The visuals is impeccable, I think. I love the pink and baby blue foster home and the yellow box toy factory.
Mm-hmm.
It had a very Frankenstein-esque wind and lighting night scenes, and
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was just beautiful overall.
I would definitely say, based off scenery, this movie would probably rank number 1 in my opinion.
It's the icing on the cake.
Yeah, I think just based off scenery, it would be ranked number 1 on my list.
Yeah. Again, the finale, the atmosphere was on point, and I think Child's Play 2 had so much of a darker feeling than the rest of the Chucky franchise, just because how angry Chucky is throughout this whole movie. Like, he's pissed.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. But at number 1, and I'm pretty sure this is for both of us, it's Child's Play, the original. I mean, you can't be an original film unless it's Friday the 13th, in my opinion.
Nothing against the original Friday the 13th.
Yeah, obviously, it's still a great movie. But I think, the way they introduced the series, with Charles Lee Ray, his actual human body, saying all this voodoo stuff and transferring into a doll. And I think it was great. And it really sets up the series to be really good, because obviously the first kill of this whole entire series was Chucky hitting Aunt Maggie. He hits her in the head and she just flies out a window, and it seemed like 60 stories in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, honestly, you can't be an original, and especially in Child's Play. It's just such a great movie.
And what I really loved,
great kills.
Right. And what I really loved about the movie was Chucky's lack of screen time, because it really built up the hype and suspense. I'm actually glad we kind of got a 45-minute wait, because it was worth it in the end. And one of the most notable scenes, and the ones that really stuck with me, is when Karen Barkley opens up the battery compartment and there's no batteries in it, and then his head turns around, he starts cursing and yelling. And that scene freaked me out when I was little.
I like when she's holding him up by the fire, and she's like, "Say something or I'll throw you in the fire." I think that was one of the best scenes in this franchise.
Yeah, and again, atmosphere is on point in this movie, mainly because they captured the Chicago-esque vibe really well, and it was like very gray. And also, there's something unnerving, because we know like Chicago's like a really dangerous city, and the fact that Andy's like running around with the doll, like, like this 8-year-old kid
Yeah.
running around with the doll in the streets of Chicago. It's kind of creepy. And also, I love when Chucky goes looking for the voodoo guy John and that whole scenario that goes on.
But yeah, that is our list for the Child's Play series. Let us know what you think of our list, and comment down below if you disagree or agree with any of them. I'll leave it to Corey to do the outro, and just subscribe to him on YouTube @/movies410.
Yep, that's right. That's my main channel, and yeah, we're going to be uploading a lot more frequent. And I'm really excited.
Yeah, this is the first video, or the first time we're doing this. So again, it might not be on point, but we're gonna improve. And yeah, don't forget to watch the Henry Post film coming this summer, Score Memorial, and that will be uploaded onto Corey's main channel.
Sometime in July, I believe the second or third week of July. We're still working out a schedule for everybody.
Yeah. But also, we will let you guys know the schedule for the podcast. We just gotta get everything situated, and we're just trying to find time.
And when the new Child's Play remake comes out, we probably will do an update video.
Yeah.
Of where it ranks in this franchise.
Yeah, definitely. But thank you guys for watching.
Please like this video,
subscribe,
and we'll see you later.